Hello, friends. This is the first, I guess, kind of episode of Silence is the Enemy. And I've been compelled to start a video series for a while. So some of them I may post and some of them I may not. But I just really wanted to just kind of document the thoughts and discussions that I have, not only in my own head, but like with my fellow people of color and things like that. So today I wanted to talk about the ultimate white privilege. So yesterday I was getting ready to go out with one of my friends for lunch, and I decided to wear a baseball cap because it was, a beautiful sunny day in New York City. And I sat in the mirror thinking, like, should I wear my cap backwards or forwards? And if I wear it backwards, what does that say about me? And if I wear it forward, does that make me look less threatening? Are my pants too baggy? Is my shirt like, how am I presenting myself? And in thinking that, I realized this isn't a common thought process for most people, but it is for people of color every day. And it's something that we've been conditioned to think through. And I was talking to one of my friends. He was telling me about a show that he's in where there are 9 people in the cast and 5 of them are people of color, and how amazing that is, but also how black art isn't as supported. And white Americans will go and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars at Whole Foods and buy organic this and cage free that, but when it comes to spending money on supporting movements and things like that, then no one wants to get involved. And what kind of sparked the conversation, I was thinking about a meme that is circulating on Facebook. And the meme is, I guess that's what you would call it, but it's a picture of a golden retriever, and he's sitting on a porch, and it says something along the lines of, "My dream is to be a golden retriever for a white upper middle class family." And I thought about recently there was an article about a dog that was shot by a police officer. I guess there was a disturbance, and the police officer went to the wrong house, and the dog was there, and he shot the dog and left the dog there, and he left a note saying, "Hey, I shot your dog." Uh, and so many people were outraged and really like disgusted by this, and they were like, something needs to be done. This cop should be fired, and this is absolutely unacceptable. And I was just kind of floored by it. Um, and here's why. Of course, I think that cop should be reprimanded. You enter someone's home and they have a dog. That dog is just defending its territory. I don't think that the dog attacked him, but he was barking and the cop felt threatened, so he shot the dog. And that's absolutely awful, especially that he didn't like try to get the dog help. He just left it there and said, "Hey, I shot your dog." Um, but what is so interesting to me is that some of the people on my Facebook who were reblogging this like never say anything when a 12-year-old is shot by an officer within 1.7 seconds of an officer arriving to a park where that child is sitting with his hands in his pocket. And a lot of the responses I get when I talk about this is like, well, I don't want my Facebook to be like, I don't want to my Facebook to be about that negativity, and I don't want to get involved in that. And so you're more outraged by a dog being shot than you are a child. And not to say that dogs are important, but a dog over a child, it just doesn't really make any sense to me. Um, and that being said, I feel that the ultimate white privilege is life itself, because in general, and I understand like everyone goes through hardships and we all struggle, and there are white, poor, Asian, black, like we all struggle. It doesn't matter what your race is. But the fact that people of color specifically have to think about how they wear their baseball cap. If I wear my hair in cornrows, does that say that I am a thug? Or if I straighten my hair, does that mean that I am more likely to get a job? Or if my skirt is too short, am I going to be slut shamed? Um, I mean, look at how Beyonce's been wearing a leotard since 2008, when she came out with "I Am Sasha Fierce," and she sings about how much she loves making love to her husband, yet people still call her a whore. But heaven forbid, Kim Kardashian posts a selfie of herself naked, and everyone's like, "Don't slut shame," and but those same people will condemn Beyonce, a married woman who only shares that with her husband, and she's technically fully covered, but she's in a leotard and and tights on stage. But a ballerina is in the same thing, and that's completely acceptable. Um, but yeah, it's just when you say that you don't want like your Facebook or whatever, you don't want that to be perceived as this, what you're saying is that you are comfortable with not doing anything because, you may not post an article, but are you showing up to a protest? Are you donating to different activism groups? Like, what exactly are you doing? Because as a person of color, it's not my job to end racism, but I'm constantly called upon, and I put myself in this position, but I'm constantly called upon to be a voice for this, and I educate myself. I'm constantly reading about these things because I care, and it's something that I'm passionate about because it's my life and it's my everyday life, and not only my life, but the lives of people who look like me and people that I love and care about and people who I don't even know. But at the root of it, it's my humanity that calls me to speak out so fervently about it. Um, and so when you say like, well, I am friends with my boss on Facebook, so I don't want to have that on my Facebook. It's like, okay, so you're saying you're comfortable working for someone who is uncomfortable with you fighting for someone else's life. You're comfortable you're comfortable with people who would have an issue with you saying like, hey, these people are being mistreated. We should do something about it. So what you're saying is you're comfortable with racism in America at the root of it because you don't want to be seen as that type of person. So what type of person is that? An activist, a person who gives a shit? That and I understand that people don't see it that way, but at its root, that's what you're saying, and that's the message that you're sending out. And so when you look to me as a person of color to explain these things to you, I'm like, I'm literally just taking the time and Googling this stuff. I'm doing my research. You can do the same thing. All of this information is readily available, but you are choosing to rely on someone else to inform you about something that you're more than capable of doing yourself. And I don't have an issue explaining these things to people. It's when people expect me to. And it's incredibly emotionally taxing to constantly be talking about that much negativity. And I've honestly forgotten what it's like to not think about it because there was a time where I was, quote unquote, asleep and was not aware or not perfectly able to articulate my feelings on these issues. But now that I know about them and now that I know the statistics behind them and the facts, it's impossible for me to ignore. And my Facebook is full of this information because it's important to talk about. And so when people are more outraged by a dog than a 12-year-old being shot, like the fact that there's even a conversation to say, well, the child should have done this, that, and the other. What could that child have done in 1.7 seconds? The cop, I'm talking about Jimmy Rice, by the way, but the cop didn't even take the time to put the car in park before he jumped out and shot a 12-year-old and killed him. But you're more upset about a dog. And again, I love dogs. I have a dog, and he's amazing, and he's so spoiled, and he's beautiful. And it would absolutely break my heart if an officer came into my parents' home and shot that dog. But I would be more upset if that cop shot my little brother. And not only with the way that people of color dress, but the fact that it's a constant fear of mine that my mom's going to call me or my dad's going to call me one day and say that it was my little brother. My little brother is a straight A student. He is in the top band at his high school. He plays the saxophone. And right across the street from the high school is a 7-Eleven. And there are so many things that can go wrong without meaning to. I mean, just the number of people of color that have been shot without any type of explanation or anything being the cause of it, just prejudice and racism and ignorance. Like the man who was shot in the back by a cop, and then the officer planted a taser on him, and it was caught on video. And people are like, "Well, that's such a terrible thing," but he just got caught on video. So what that says to me is this has been happening and is happening. 50% of exonerated court cases in 2014 were white people accusing black people of crimes that they didn't commit, and those black people had already been serving time. So this isn't something that's new. It's just people aren't talking about it. So why? Why is it that I have to spend the time that it takes to break down how I look and how I dress based on how you are going to perceive me, but you get to just go about your life and wear whatever you want? And like, yeah, there are certain, whether you dress goth or preppy or whatever, there are certain presumptions that are made by our outer appearance. But if I don't dress how you dress, what you approve of, then I'm automatically a thug or a criminal. And the funny thing is, even when I do dress in a suit and tie, I'm still black. And there are still situations where I've been in where it's been very clear that the person I'm interacting with is ignorant and oftentimes racist. For example, my mother was driving home one day, and she was pulled over by a police officer. My mom drives a beautiful black Lexus and has lived in the same neighborhood for over a decade. And this cop pulled her over and asked her, "What are you doing here?" It's not uncommon, but it's like my mom dresses like a beautiful black woman, and that's all you need to know about that. But not even you were speeding, or you switched lanes without using a turning signal, or you broke a law, but what are you doing here? How? But people are able to go on with their everyday lives because, well, I don't want my boss to think this of me. I don't want America to think that I care. It's so incredibly frustrating to live this life and be aware of all of these things, and to constantly fight to inform non-people of color about these things. And I do what I can on my Facebook and in my everyday life and in these conversations and protesting and this, that, and the other. But black people are 13% of the American population. White Americans are 73% of the population. So even if every single black person showed up to a protest, we would still be outnumbered over a problem that we did not start, but we are the ones who are working to fix. And that isn't, I'm not knocking my white allies in any way, shape, or form. I'm so grateful for you all. I'm so grateful for the members of my group, Silence is the Enemy, 185 members who are there and present. But even in that group, I'm the sole source of information. And I put myself in that position not to necessarily be a leader, but to inspire others to be informed and to be active. And so when I'm not seeing that happen, and I see that I'm the one who's doing the most, at least in social media, I'm the one who's doing the most, it's rather frustrating. And that's not even saying that, well, someone posted 5 articles, so I'm going to post 20. But it's like, if I post one article in a month and you haven't posted in a year, or even participating in the discussion, it's like, I'm not even asking you to hold up your sign that says Black Lives Matter. I'm just asking you to participate in the discussion. I'm asking you to read the information that we're presenting, and I'm asking you to not ask people of color to be quiet. I'm so sick of hearing the argument, well, if we just stop talking about racism, then it'll go away. That's not how it works. And all of these things are happening. Like, we're in the middle of another revolution, so to speak, and it happens pretty much every decade, but people of color get exhausted. And then there's another awakening within the next generation, and it slowly gets better. But I'm afraid to bring my children into a world like this, when someone, even for a split second, would try to justify the murder of a 12-year-old child in a park because a white person called the police and said, "This child looks threatening." And I could give you hundreds of articles about white men who have been apprehended peacefully, some of which had shot up a movie theater or walked into a church and murdered 9 people of color just because they felt like it. But 12-year-old Tamir Rice sitting in a park with a toy gun, but had his hands in his pockets, the gun was not visible. He deserved to die within 1.7 seconds. And you can't even post an article because you don't want your boss to think that you care. It just doesn't make any sense to me, and it's rather infuriating because I no longer consider you a friend. If you don't support this movement, we're not friends because I'm black and my life matters. And I'm not saying that my life matters in your more than yours. I'm saying my life matters just as much. So I think you get the point of what I'm saying. So I should probably end it because this video is already longer than what I wanted it to be. But do something, help, show up, care. That's all we're asking.